Welcome along to tutorial 7. In previous videos we've looked at ways to remove your opponent's good move by firstly taking that move yourself, or secondly by removing the piece that is gaining your opponent access. So for example, this in turn leads us to a checkerboarding strategy like we discussed in our previous video, but what we'll be looking at this time is gaining access. So in other words, what are the sort of thought processes you need to go through to establish a move sequence that gets you to your desired move, but also establishes whether that desired move is a feasible option in the first place. Let's look at an example by playing out this move sequence. So what we've got here is a position which sees white on one side of the board and black on the other. So a bit like our rotating flat position. But in this position we're not going to pretend to think we need to creep round the board. What we're going to look at is gaining access to this move. This move is on our side of the board so it looks desirable, and we want to work out a way of getting to this move. In the sequence, how white goes about it is firstly by playing here. Instantly, this threatens into the move that we're looking for. Black obviously doesn't need to think too much about this. He instantly plays here in order to take this move away. Now, white still wants to try and get to this move. It could opt to perform a rotating flat type sequence and play here and look for black to stay on this side and then maybe come around here, but we're going to stick to this move. To get to this move, white's going to need a piece on this diagonal here. So it would either need a white piece here, or a white piece here, or a white piece here. This at the moment is out of the question, and if we were to play here, we're going to flip a lot of pieces this way and ruin a simple move that we do have to this position. And if we play here to gain this piece, black has a fairly easy option of either playing here or here to remove that and we continue. White does have a better option though. What it can do is if it decides that it wants to get here, it can try and improve this position to make this move a viable option later. So what it does is plays here. This is essentially putting in a blocker piece on this row, so that when white does play here later, it's only going to flip this piece and he now has access. So after this move, black's reply is to remain on this side of the board, and this now allows white the opportunity to gain that piece. Here we have another example of white trying to gain access to a particular move. In this case, here, simply because it's nice and central. But what we're going to do first is go back to our grassroots and look at the move which black is trying to gain access to. As it turns out, it's exactly the same move. This piece here is gaining black access to this move here. So this is a really nice move for both black and white. What white wants to really do is try and make sure that it's white that plays there and not black. So we're going to break with convention slightly here and make a really loud move. To stop black from gaining access, we need to get rid of this piece, essentially turning it to white. And there's only two options that we can make to establish that goal. We can either play here, removing this piece and black's access, or alternatively if we go back, we can play here. And this is our preferred move. Now this move, when you look at it initially, is huge. But in the long run, it's really good. Because it's removed black's access, and it's got us this piece here. It's gained us access to this move that we like the look of. And black's only reply is to try and fill in the position and try and remain central and sacrifice that move. There was no way that black could establish a position which would gain it back access to that move. So white won that victory by playing here. If white had played down here, then it would have established the same sort of aim, but isn't quite as good because the board's suddenly much more open and there's a lot more options that black can make. But that's not to say it was wrong. It's actually a really good move to have a look at if you've got some time. Let's look at another example. So, consider the position here. It's black's move. Now in first glance, this almost looks like a gift of a move. It's quite a simple thing to spot that black can play a tidy move here and gain access to here. But first we should always go back to our initial grassroots thought, what's my opponent's best move? Well, as it turns out, white doesn't have really many options in this case. It can't play here, it could play here, but it certainly can't play anything around here. And any move it does play around here is likely to open up more options. So white doesn't appear to be in a great position. So with that considered, we don't have a move for white that we need to remove, so we can go to our nice simple move through the middle, which gains us a further move to here. We've gained this piece. But before we actually play this move, we need to think carefully, because what we've done is we've removed all of our pieces from this column. And that's going to give white a good move suddenly. So before we actually play this move, we need to try and visualize this position. If I play here and then white does play here, how does that edge play out? Should I ignore it and just play the move I was expecting? Or should I play onto this edge? Playing here and maybe white taking this, or playing here? So the question I need to ask myself, and we won't go through it at the moment because edge play is another complication that we want to think about later. The question I want to ask myself is, if I play here and move all white's pieces from this column, does allowing white to play here disadvantage me? Or another question is, if I play onto that edge next, does that work out better for me? So if I play, then white plays, is that good for me? Or if I play, white plays onto the edge again, is that better for me? So you need to be looking ahead, and you need to be able to do that from this position. Visualize black's move, visualize white's move, and then visualize the options that you have here and here. The last thing I wanted to talk about was these sorts of positions. If you're new to Othello, chances are you're going to be playing some potentially weaker players, and they might run you into positions like this, where you've been trying to minimise, but they've been overly maximising. And this in itself is a dangerous position. At the moment, black is winning, but if it makes the wrong move here, it could lose the game, especially if white actually has a good understanding of how to play out the end of the game, but didn't understand the beginning. For example, if black was to play the quiet move to here, it's lost the game. White can reply, which is quite likely given white's current strategy. And however hard it tries, black will never be able to get here, to get the wedge and play around the board, because it will never be able to get a piece onto this diagonal now without sacrificing something over here, which loses it the game. So if we go back, what black must do in this position is make sure he has access to this position. He plays here. White could reply, for example, like this, or it could have replied here and black would take this edge. But the important thing now is that it has the opportunity to play something like this, gaining it some pieces in the middle and allowing it to eventually get to this edge, allowing black to then win the game by coming round this side of the board.